Dear students, a warm welcome to learn the digital electronics in a new platform. First, let me introduce myself. Myself, Purnima BS, working as a lecturer in Government Polytechnic, Channapatana. The subject code for the digital electronics is 15EE34T. In this session, we are going to discuss about the IC logic families, that is the unit 1 in our syllabus. Here we are going to discuss about the session 4. Next we will see the overall overview of the whole session 4, what we are going to discuss in the whole presentation. First we will see the definition of the integrated circuit. Next we will see the tri-state logic of a different logic families. Next we'll see the advantages of a integrated circuits over the discrete components. Let me repeat the same thing. First we'll discuss about the definition of the IC. Next we'll discuss about the tri-state logic. Next we'll discuss about the advantages of the integrated circuits over the discrete components. First we'll move on to the definition of the IC. The integrated circuits are abbreviated as ICs. An IC is basically an electronic circuit formed on a small piece of semiconducting material which performs the same function as a large circuit made from the discrete components. It is sometimes called a chip or a microchip. It has the capacity to fabricate thousands or millions of tiny resistors, capacitors and the transistors. The picture of the typical IC is as shown in the figure. So, as per the definition, which means that the IC is basically a electronic circuit and it is a very small in size and it has a n number of active devices like transistors and diodes, and it also has a passive devices like capacitors and resistors, etc. These active and passive devices are fabricated in a very small piece of semiconducting material. The semiconducting material is a material which exhibits the properties of both the conducting material as well as the insulating material. The ideal semiconducting material used for the manufacturing of integrated circuit is the silicon material. So, hence this IC is very small in size. Hence, it is having a discrete number of components. The discrete number of components means the discrete refers to the separate or individual components. As the size is very small, we can define this IC as a chip or a microchip. It has the capacity to fabricate thousands or millions of tiny resistors, capacitors and the transistors. Now the whole world is moving towards the digitalization. Then why we have to use the larger circuit if the same operation is done using the small piece of IC? That is why these ICs are most widely used in almost all the electronic components. Let me repeat the IC definition once again. The ICs are basically an electronic circuit formed on a small piece of semiconducting material which performs the same function as a larger circuit made from the discrete components. It is sometimes referred to as chip or a microchip. It is the capacity to fabricate thousands or millions of tiny resistors, capacitors and the transistors. The picture of a IC is as shown in the figure. Next, we will move on to the tri-state logic. The tri-state logic refers to the three possible output state. The first state we can say it as a high state. The next we can say the low state. The third state we can define this as a high impedance state or open circuit state or intermediate state. So both the TTL and CMOS logic families exhibits these three states. So let me repeat once again. The tri-state logic refers to the three possible output state. The first state is high state or one state or on state we can say. The next state refers to low state or zero state, or we can say it as a off state. Third state is nothing but the high impedance state or open circuit state, or it can also be called as a intermediate state. Both the TTL and the CMOS logic families exhibits these three output states. This shows the different states of the TTL and CMOS families. The first circuit shows the low state of a logic family. Here the input, when the input is in a high condition or in a on state, the output is low state with the enable input in a low condition. The next circuit shows the high state output when the input is in a low state condition with the enable input in a low condition. Then third state is the open circuit state. In this case, the output is in a open circuit mode with the input in a don't care condition and the enable input in a high state. The next table, this table is called as the truth table. The truth table is a mathematical table used in the logic families. Here, each state of the input and outputs are tabulated in rows and columns. Let me redefine this truth table. The truth table is widely used in this digital electronics. The truth table is basically a mathematical table which is used in the logic families. Here, each state of the input and outputs are tabulated in rows and columns. Here we are having the three columns: enable, input and output. When the enable input is in a low mode, the input is in a high state and the output is in a low state. When the enable input is in a low mode, the input is in a low mode and the output is in a high mode. When the enable input is in a high mode, the input is in a don't care mode and the output is in the high impedance state or open circuit condition. Next, we'll move on to the advantages of the integrated circuits over the discrete components. The discrete components refers to the separate components or individual components. The first advantage is these ICs are very small in size, as we have seen in the previous slides, when compared to the separate components. As the size is very small, the weight of this IC is also very less. Next advantage is the cost of the IC is very low. We can purchase a IC within 5 to 10 rupees. Next, these ICs have a high reliability. These ICs consumes very less power. This can be easily replaced in case of any damage to the ICs. These ICs have a high operating speed, which means this operates in a very fast manner. As the size of the ICs is very small, it can be produced in batches. Batches means at a time we can produce n number of ICs. Let me repeat the advantages once again. These ICs are very small in size. It is very small in weight. The cost of the IC is very low. It has high reliability. The power consumption is very less. It can be easily replaced. High operating speed. It can be produced in batches. Next, we'll see some of the multiple choice questions on the tri-state logic and the definition of the ICs. First question, dash cannot be fabricated on an IC. The option A, transistors. Option B, diodes. Option C, resistors. Option D, the large inductors and the transformers. When I'm explaining the definition of the ICs, I have already explained that the transistors and diodes are the active devices. These two can be easily fabricated in a IC, and this resistor is a passive device. This can also be easily fabricated in a integrated circuits, but this large inductors and the transformers, as the size of these inductors and transformers is very large when compared to the integrated circuits. The correct answer for this question is the option D, that is the large inductors and the transformers. The next question is the most popular types of ICs are the option A, thin film, option B, hybrid, this option C, thick film, option D, monolithic. As the ICs are very small in size and it uses only a single materials for its construction. Hence, the right answer for this question is the option D, that is the monolithic is the right answer. The thin film means the IC uses the thin film for its construction. Hybrid refers to the use of two or more materials. The thick film refers to the very thick material for the construction of IC. So the right answer for this IC, popular types of ICs are the option D is the correct answer, that is monolithic. The third question, the silicon dioxide layer in an integrated circuit acts as a option A, resistors, option B, an insulating layer, option C, mechanical output, option D, none of the above. So the silicon layer in an IC acts as a insulating layer. This is the right answer because this insulating layer which will not allow the electric current to pass through it. Though silicon is basically a semiconducting materials, so IC is usually made up of any of the semiconducting material. Hence this silicon dioxide is used as a insulating layer in case of a ICs. Hence the option B is the right answer. Next questions. ICs are generally made of option A, silicon, option B, germanium, option C, the copper, option D, none of the above. The copper is a purely a good conducting material. Option B, germanium, this is also one of the semiconducting material. Option A, the silicon is also a semiconducting material. So the right answer lies between the option A and the B. So while I am explaining the construction of the IC or definition of the IC, I told that the ICs are usually made up of the silicon materials. Hence the right answer for this question is the option A, that is silicon. The next question is the most popular form of IC packaging is option A, DIL, dual inline, the B, flat pack, option C, TO5, the transistor and other circuits, D, option D, none of the above. The right answer for this is the flat pack. As we have seen in the previous slide, the IC is usually in a flat manner. So the IC packaging is made with a flat pack. So option B is the right answer. The active components in an ICs are option A, resistors, option B, capacitors, option C, the transistors and diodes, Option D, none of the above. So when we come to this option A, the resistors is basically a passive device. Similarly, the option B, the capacitor, this capacitor B is also a passive device. But the question asked here is the active components used in a ICs are the transistors and diodes. Hence, the right answer for this question is the transistors and diodes. That is option C is the right answer. Next, these are the typical or model questions which may appear in your examination. First, we can say define the tri-state logic. The next one, define integrated circuit and list the advantages of ICs over the discrete components. Let me repeat the model questions which may appear in your examination. Is the first question may be define the tri-state logic. The second question, the define the IC and list the advantages of ICs over the discrete components. So this slide shows the names of the team members who worked for the successful launching of this session. If you have any doubts or any suggestions in this session, please drop a mail to lms.dtech@gmail.com. Thank you.